Call this meeting to order. Roll call, commissioners.
Commissioner Bailey.
Here.
Commissioner Bunting.
Present.
Commissioner Gay.
Here.
Commissioner Owens.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Why don't you give us?
Bar heads, please. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the day that you've given to us, and we just thank you, Father, for the rain that you've blessed us with, and your followers, Father, we're never satisfied, so we could use a little more. We ask that you'd be with us tonight and we would do the things that are pleasing to the voters of Gratiot County, which is in his name we pray, amen.
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Do we have anything we're gonna add? You have it all in there? That's all. We're good. Okay, we need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Support.
The move is supported to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alrighty. Time for a brief public comment. Anybody online, Matt?
I don't see anyone connected in for public comment.
Moving on. Have anything you want to pull from the consent calendar at H?
Approve the consent calendar. Support.
Moved and supported on the approve the consent calendar. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Administrators report.
All right, this month in July, we have 3 lifetime employees of Gratiot County who are retiring. We are going to lose 97 years of experience from these 3 people, almost an entire century. First up was Carolyn Siggers from the Drain Commission, who has worked with us for 31 years. Eric Andrews from the Sheriff's Office will be retiring. He worked with us for 26 years. And Mark Duflo at Central Dispatch. And he worked for Central Dispatch for 40 years. So a lot of experience that we're losing this month. Last week, we held a department head meeting to go over the employee satisfaction survey that Sheila put together and to brainstorm what types of ways that we can make Gratiot County a better place to work. I was very impressed with the participation, and for the first time since I have worked here, we actually had to pull out additional seating for people who came to a department head meeting. So I'm very happy with that. I was also impressed with the process and the results facilitated by Sheila. So thank you, Sheila, for that. Our budgeting process for next fiscal year is in full swing. There are 3 of us that are currently working on that process. So instead of it being a 1-person show like it has been in the past, the entire administration, everybody on the staff does have a role in helping put together the budget, which I expect will make it a lot easier on me. I do plan on starting to bring documents to the board for review, starting at the next meeting. The latest capital project that is nearing completion is the panic button replacement project. This was scheduled to be done, I believe, a year ago, as most projects that we have been doing since 2020 had been significantly delayed, but the Matt Hewitt and the sheriff had tested it on Friday, I believe, to make sure that they're working and up and going. So putting the finishing pieces up on that, but that should be completed here very shortly. Next week, Monday, July 10th, we are holding our first Gratiot County opioid resource meeting with the purpose of identifying where our opioid settlement funds could be. The plan is to map out all the county services of opioid prevention, treatment, and enforcement. And as a panel, we will try to identify areas that are lacking, non-existent, and or underfunded. Then we'll cross-reference those with studies, the most effective ways to combat the opioid crisis. The initial people that we're bringing together include representatives from Gratiot Integrated Health Network, Gratiot County Substance Abuse and Suicide Prevention Coalition, the Gratiot County Sheriff's Department, Gratiot County Problem Solving, courts, Mid-Michigan District Health Department, and My Michigan Medical Center out of Elma. So we hope to have organize a whole bunch of information to bring to the board to help you make your decisions on where we can best help our residents from this opioid crisis. Last but not least, definitely not least, last week on the morning of June 28th, Wednesday morning, our health department was struck by lightning. Unfortunately, there were injuries that were sustained as we did have employees who were entering the building as that happened. These employees at the moment appear to be recovering well, but still have lingering effects. The county does own the building. The health department does own the contents of the building. Each of us are working with our insurance company for damages that were done. But it does appear that there were damages to the rooftop generator and unfortunately the new HVAC unit that we just put in there also. Sheila has graciously taken the lead on working with the health department and working with the insurance company. She did meet with Liz earlier today, and I have been briefed on it, but I'm not fully up to date on what exactly is going on, but that is something that we are actively a part of every day. So, and just remind you, for those of you that have toured the jail today, we do have a spot on the agenda to have that discussion. So we don't need to do it in the individual reports that we do have coming up. And that's my report. Thank you.
Any questions for Chris?
Yes, I have a question. What about the audit? We haven't heard anything about that.
I have wrapped up the work on the audit and have forwarded it on to my staff to update the accounting system. And once the journal entries are entered, we will be submitting that information to the building.
And so okay, I was thinking that this was all gonna be done as they were working on it at the beginning.
I came in over the weekend and adjusted all of this stuff, so it needs to go through the process to adjust our accounting system and then send it to them.
What about the state of Michigan? Did we send everything we need to send it to them? That was due when the 3rd of, I don't remember which month it was,
The end of March.
the end of March?
Yep.
And that was done?
No, we needed to send in our audit report to them.
Okay, so we haven't done that yet either.
Correct, because the audit
Is there gonna be a penalty on it?
The penalty is that we will not receive our revenue sharing payments until we have submitted it.
Okay.
So once we submit it and they review it, typically then they would release back payments.
Okay. And there wouldn't be any late charges or anything like that.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, that's good to know.
Anything else? Thanks, Chris. Commissioner committee reports. George?
I attended Breckenridge Village Council meeting on the 19th. They're actively getting quotes for their project for the ARPA money. And business is normally as usual. They're putting in a force main from a company that's just outside west of Breckenridge and bringing it into town. That company is paying for the force main. That's being done. We also, we had a Board of Health meeting that Tim and I attended. And we've got another finance meeting coming up. It's the 12th. Yeah, it's the 12th to take care of that. And also attended for the Soil Conservation District is going to have a tire drive. It's going to happen in September. I don't have the dates yet. They're going to pick up 1,000 tires. They got a grant from the state of Michigan to do that. So Deandra from our permits department is working with them on some advertisement, things like that, so they can get that out and have them picked up in an orderly manner. We're going to use the fairgrounds to do that. And so people will either call in or go on the website and get an appointment time to bring their tires. 1,000 tires for Gratiot County isn't very many tires if you think about it. One township can easily pick up 1,000 tires, but it's a start. We've had about 3 townships that I'm aware of that have already had these types of drives, and we're very successful. So it's a start. We're trying to target those that have had blight issues. The individuals that have had blight issues, the biggest problem they have are tires. Old tires. It costs too much money. You know, people in that position don't have any money to get rid of them. And this is a good way to get rid of a lot of tires. So
I have a question on that. So can't they, when they buy new tires, can't they turn the old ones in?
these people don't buy new tires. They're no. They're going on the used tires.
Okay.
Yeah,
And turn them in, but it's, I don't know, $5.
yeah, and it costs.
Wow.
Yeah.
You gotta give to these farmers that's got CAFOs because they have
So
all this grain.
they've got a method to get those. There's too many tires laying around out in the country. Way too many tires. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
As George said, I attended the 28th health board meeting right here in Ithaca. It rotates. There's 3 counties involved. There's Clinton and Montcalm and Gratiot. We have 2 county commissioners from each county, and it's about health matters. There's a doctor and things in there. I don't know too much about it to comment, but there's a lot of money. There's COVID money still around. So anyway, that's it. I hope to next week, I hope to attend all 3 of my township meetings next week. So
David?
All of my townships met before the last meeting. But adding on to what George says, Seville in, I think it was May, they picked up 1,000 tires.
Wow.
And the problem is there's more that are still attached to the cars that were there and
that's the card.
Thank you.
I think they could melt that down and make another tire.
Well, what they do is they bring them to a recycler who they shred the tires. They use them in many different products. One of them is asphalt.
Oh, okay. That's good.
They use them up.
Uh-huh.
Can you retread a tire?
yes,
Truck tires they do. There's a company, Giles over in Alma has a regular company that they recap tires, truck tires. They've got quite a business over there. It's pretty unique. Yeah.
It doesn't even matter, but when I was a kid, I used to drive on recaps because they're about $10.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a few things I'd like to talk about. One of them, I was at the Alma City meeting this last month. And I'm hearing this quite often. I heard it when I was in Wheeler Township in Bethany, or not Bethany, but Wheeler and Breckenridge, and it's about the parks. The parks have money now and they've fixed up our parks really nice, the 2 that have the lake, but there are other parks in our county. And we have different townships or cities even that would like to see some of the money go into that area. Now, I know there's a set amount of money set aside and you can apply for that. But I also think that we need to kind of gap this communication between the parks and maybe the people out there that do have parks that would have to have something, would like something done. Maybe all of them get together, or maybe they all do it all 1 year. Bring in exactly what they'd like to have done. I'm not saying I'm not on that board. Is there anybody in here on that board?
Sam is.
Who is, you are, Sam? Okay. Do they have a lot of extra money left over at the end of the year?
About the end of the year, they have quite a bit of money.
That's what I'm thinking. And there's a nice park right over at Elma that is being used a lot by children, and there's a few things I'd like to do. I don't think any of these things are going to be a lot of money, but it'd be nice if we could, if they would take and maybe start venturing out a little ways and going to each one of the cities or townships and asking what could we do to improve your area? Especially like places like Popeye or Middleton, maybe they've got some little small place with just one swings at it, where kids could go down and swing, or a sandbox or something.
Well, the park that's in Popeye is run by the county park system now.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That was the other thing too. It seems to me back a few years ago, if you had a park, if you gave it to the parks, they would fix it up. Otherwise, they didn't want to fix it up. And I think that's wrong too. I think that I'm going to use, they're not here. St. Louis might have a park, and why would you want to take over that responsibility? They're already mowing it and keeping it up, but maybe they need some swings and a new sidewalk or whatever it takes to bring that up to par. And so since you're on that board, if you'd let me know when the next meeting is, I'll come too.
But we do have an application for the sub grant that you're talking about.
Okay,
And when when that grant period opens up, Pete Little, the director of Parks and Rec, sends that to me. And then I forward it out to all of the cities and the villages and the townships. I send it to all of them. Asking them to fill out that application to send back to Parks and Rec.
have they sent that to you already this year?
No, it comes toward the end of the year.
Of course, yeah.
And it's something I don't understand. I've questioned it, why there's a window. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't just gather them up and say in October, we're gonna take a look at it, you know?
They shouldn't have.
Have a window, have a window to get in and a window, I don't think.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to come to the meeting, because I think that there shouldn't be a window. Right now is when something needs to be fixed. And I mean, there's a shortage of different. How can I say this? There's other things on the priority list that have to be done first before a park. And that's why when we donate money or we pass a millage to do a Parks and Rec, and if they're sitting on a lot of money, I don't think if they spend a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 to improve a park, that would make a difference this summer. I think it shouldn't be waited until next year. It needs to be done now.
Well, I think there's two things with the parks. They have this grant process. Last year they had a grant process. They decided to give away $80,000. Two people applied for it, City of Helena and the Village of Perrington. Perrington had taken out part of their park, and then they got a little bit of COVID money, and they had to finish it up. And I think it was 30,000 went to Perrington and 50,000 went to Elma. And they're doing a park type of alley thing up there. I'm really not sure how that works, but so they awarded that out of that grant structure. The other thing that they have, I just had this conversation this afternoon with Chris, so it's a millage thing. And we've talked about the Alba Township has a park in Banff. And they've asked them about giving it to them. I went down, took pictures of it. There's a ball field there. There's a little canopy, a little housing thing, some little rides, some swings. So I talked to them about, what does it take for us to maybe take this over? And, they don't have, Alba Township has nobody that works. They don't have like sewer people or anybody like that. They have no workers. They got a guy that takes his lawnmower and mows the cemetery. So he's mowing the park thing for a couple bucks. They showed some interest, but not a lot. There's 3 parks in the county. I think there's one in Elm Hall and there's one in not Riverdale, Sumner. So those are kind of like little township parks. The other side of this coin is the people in Elma pay taxes to the park village. People everybody does. Everybody pays the village. These 2 parks we have are nice. Talking about asphalt and some more stuff out at Reed Park. I'm a believer that we ought to take a look at that. And Chris and I had chatted one out today, and I think we just need to take a look at that.
Okay, it could be, if it's possible, I'd like to maybe go to.
We meet at our next meeting, and then they meet like at 5:30 in the library in Elm.
5:30.
5:30, it's after our next meeting. So it's a
5:30.
day. We meet on a Tuesday, they meet the next Wednesday after the second meeting for us.
Okay.
Our second meeting of the month, which will be whatever it is. Well, 18.
So it'd be the 19th.
They'll meet the 19th, 5:30 in Elm.
19th, Parks. Okay, I think it's important, especially since it'd be different if they were like dealing in pennies or dimes or nickels. But we're talking that they've got a good nest egg, and I think that this is taxpayer money and it needs to be used for the community, and the community is parks. And I think I was at one of your meetings where they talked about putting a bike trail. And there's lots of things that you can do to these parks that people can get out and use right now that maybe they're not traveling out of the county because of the gas prices or
Well,
jobs or whatever.
I was gonna bring that up on my thing. The parks are busy. The two parks, Reed and Upshur, are busy. I mean, they got people who work there, they just bought a couple new gators
Yeah.
and stuff and looking at pickup and there's some things like that. So they're busy. And those parks are, have
I would,
quite a few people.
I'd like to see some more water parks put in where they, it's just all cement and they have water sprays. They have one on Breckenridge and they're always busy. Lots and lots of kids, especially this kind of weather. Something like that in Alma with all these kids in Alma, that'd be great for them to go down there and just play in the water and stay out of trouble, But anyway, that was one of the issues I wanted to talk about. And then also one of the other things that I'm going to wait on one of these. Transportation, Alma Transportation. I would like to invite Brent, what is his last name? Bob Letts. I would like to invite him to our next meeting to talk about the Alma Transportation. I can tell you that where I used to live, there's 8 apartments and there was 3 people that use that. 4 people that use it quite often, where they call and ask for a ride to go to work, or go to the doctors, or go to get groceries. And that's great because they do come to St. Louis, but there are other areas of people that need to use this. And you're getting more and more people that are no longer driving. They don't want to drive. They give up their car, but now they need transportation. And some of the ways they can use transportation is Commission on Aging, but not everybody wants to do that. And many times I've gone to the grocery store or I've gone to the laundromat and somebody's waiting for the train or the transportation to come pick them up. And I've offered to give them a ride. Well, they've already called. They don't want them to come there and not be there. So what I'm saying, I'd like to see, they did a survey. I'd like to see a little bit of update of what's going on with the Alma Transportation and where they're at. And if it's something we can put on a millage, maybe put it with another millage, maybe we should think about doing something like that. What's your thoughts on this?
We could put on the agenda item, but I don't know.
I think it's more to it than that. It's really not an authority. And I'm only looking at like Clinton counties. They have the blue bus that goes all over the county. It's an authority and the county pays for it and everybody uses it. I think here, I'm not positive, and you could probably correct me here, but doesn't it run on really some government grants? And then they select so many towns and people pay a couple dollars to ride or something. And that's how it's managed.
Now it's the transportation system, which is powered by transportation. City of Ithaca, St. Louis, and Pioneer Township all get village into the transportation department to use the system. If and then from there it's like $2 a ride.
Yeah.
Depending on where you're going. But right now it's not an authority like you mentioned. It's countywide. And the study that the State of Michigan commissioned for the Alma Transportation Department was to look at their current system and then what it could look like if it went countywide. So that's the report that has been submitted back to the city commission.
Yeah.
And that's a bigger discussion after that, but
It's bigger than just saying, let's give them a couple of bucks and they'll go everywhere. I think it's more to it than that. You need more buses, no more workers. Clinton County Blue Bus got lots of buses, got vans. I mean, they got a lot of equipment, but they've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
And I think they started out pretty small, just like you guys. And then it
But
expanded.
it's like you mentioned, Sam, it would be a bigger discussion, but
Yeah.
it's a starting point.
Yeah.
Is it all right with everybody here, just to have him come in and maybe give a presentation of where they're at? and what the statistics are on rides and the areas that they're getting calls for. I don't think it'd be more than a 10-15 minute presentation. And it would, and I think it's important because it's part of our community, our county.
But it's going to be a hard sell in some of the more rural areas. They don't want to pay for it.
Well, that's okay, because they probably wouldn't call for it anyway. I mean, we could still go back. I mean, it's a discussion that has to, probably a bigger discussion, like you said. It might be just certain areas, like maybe Ashley. Which ones did you say was Ithaca involved?
Right now, that they basically had to create their own authority between, I think, St. Louis and Allen Township. They call their group sliver. It's that. I remember. Correct. Basically, those services would cost to transportation. And then they had voted on the election to pay for their part of the transportation system. How that working currently, but Sam's point there, the organizations and departments that do it well, do it countywide. Those are, Dave's made mention of it. It's get a lot of discussions, letting people kind of figure their own way of if they want things, how things. It's not something you're just flip a switch tomorrow. There it is for sure. So.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Just have them come in and maybe do a discussion, and he would probably be more of a person to say, this is what I'm going to recommend that you start off with, or we start off with, and take baby steps and see where it leads to.
Well, I think if you got the 3 or 4 biggest areas right now, basically what it's going to take is going to take sales to Alma Township. It's going to talk. I mean, you get to North Shade, there's 100 people there. They got nothing, you know. So how many 100 people really want that bus to come down there?
Yeah, they probably won't.
But they might.
Yeah.
They doctor Carson City. I mean, these guys in Clinton County, I mean, I've seen them in Shiawassee County at them, where they do that kidney dialysis places. I mean, at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm on the road, one passing me, you know, they're heading someplace, you know, so I think they're a great thing, but I think you'd have to sell it to these rural townships to say, yeah, we would really want to pay for that
Yeah.
in a village or something. Then you gotta talk to the other group who is no different than the airport. You gotta talk to the other group and say, you want to give that up, you know, and become an authority or something. So it's not like you say, you're gonna fix this by the end of the year. I don't think.
No, that's why I just thought it'd be nice. He's come before and gave us a presentation on it, and I just thought it'd be nice to have him come in again. And I think he did trying to think what you call it, a survey, like, and it was real interesting. He was telling me about how many more people are interested in it today. So they also go to Mount Pleasant, don't they?
For some services, specialized services.
Yeah.
That's what-
It's not.
Oh,
Okay, so then I'm not done yet, you guys. I'll just do one more, and that's rent. I was talking to them. As I was looking for a place to rent. I found out that it's very hard. One thing, there's no place to rent. Because a lot of people that do have rentals don't really advertise it. And so I spent months looking for a different place to live. And so I was talking to them at Alma that it's too bad that, like, say maybe Ithaca, St. Louis, and Alma would maybe get, or not attorneys, but realtors together. And maybe when people have a place for rent or looking for a place to rent, when somebody is coming into town, we have a lot of people coming into town. And they're looking for a place to rent to live, and a place to rent to maybe put their business. And this would be maybe some areas that they could contact automatically and maybe get something started like that. So that's just something I'm going to throw at you guys. And it may be something I might work on too. Just start off kind of small again, baby steps, get some people that's interested, like some realtors. And then when somebody comes to town, everybody would know, well, you send them, what area do you want to live in? You'd send them to that realtor and he would tell you what's available in businesses or in rental. And if you're wanting to rent your place, you could say, here, I've got all these places for rent, if you know of somebody. And then if somebody does inquire about it, they would know exactly, there's a lot of places empty, but you don't know who owns them and if they're even for rent. So that was just something else I was gonna mention. Now I'm done.
Okay. I attended a few meetings. We'll talk a little bit about the Alma Airport. We were there a couple of weeks ago. And in the morning, got stuff kind of headed in the direction that we've all talked about. I think our blight problems with the few townships, we had a few of them fall through the cracks in the transition. I think we've got them all cleaned up pretty well. You know, everybody's on pace. We got some people that have turned in some complaints that I've been waiting on. I was to New Haven and to Newark. They're really just talking about chip sealing roads. They've done Middleton Road and is it Alger Road, I think, comes off of coming down in there. I drive my cars there and I hate it because it chips them. And I think that's really, at the parks, we talked a little bit about that. I was to the park meeting a couple weeks ago. So that's really all I have. Any questions about anything from anybody? All right, new business, Gratiot Integrated Health. Who's doing that? Online?
Hi, good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Great. Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak with you this evening. I am presenting to you today the opportunity to support a resolution in opposition of 4 structural mitigation strategies that MDHHS is proposing to impose on the CMH system. What they are proposing are it's a requirement due to the Federal Affordable Care Act and Social Security mandates that there be some established safeguards against conflict of interest for service providers. So naturally, that makes sense for in the private industry where we wouldn't want the fox watching the hen house. I don't want to be authorizing services and also be the service provider when in theory I could potentially line my own pocket by over authorizing services and then getting to recoup the funds in that kind of arrangement. The reason I'm asking for the opposition and support from the county commissioners is that the conflict of interest that they are referring to is really null and void in the Michigan community mental health system due to a series of reasons. One, we have a lot of procedural safeguards in place that already mitigate against any of that conflict of interest. We allow for independent facilitation. There is opportunity for self-determined services, person-centered planning, utilization management strategies, fiscal intermediaries, in addition to the fact that we are in a shared cost arrangement with the state of Michigan, meaning that we can never retain any savings year over year. So there really is inherently no conflict to be mitigating against. We're not able to over-authorize services because there's no benefit to that. We have to cost settle with the state at the end of the year and send back any cost savings that we have. The state has previously received support from CMS with the procedural mitigation strategies that are in place that I just mentioned, the self-determined services, independent facilitation, and so on. And unfortunately, they have now pivoted to a more extreme interpretation of the rule, even though they had already received approval from CMS. They are now proposing 4 different structural mitigation strategies. And I had included just this morning, I apologize for the late addition, Angie should have sent it to the commissioners and it's included, I believe, in the extras tab with your agenda materials. Some diagrams that show what it is that they're proposing. And really at its most simplistic form is they're looking to, oh, thank you. So if you go down a couple more slides. In its most simplistic form, what they're doing is proposing to take a CMH system, which is right now the authorizer of services and the service provider, kind of your one-stop shop for specialty behavioral health services, and bifurcate it into either you can be a service delivery entity or an authorization entity. And while that may make sense in the private sector, it really does not hold any water in the public behavioral health system for the reasons that I already noted. Additionally, we believe that it creates unnecessary barriers to an already complex system for our consumers to navigate. They would have to go to one entity, tell their story, take that leap of, of trust in entering into treatment. And then they would have to go to another entity to receive their services, have to retell their stories again. And the potential for losing consumers just between those barriers or that additional step is pretty high. It's difficult for us to engage consumers consistently, even when we're all in when we're one entity. So we view this as an unnecessary establishment of barriers that is only going to harm our consumer base. And so we are asking for opposition to all 4 of the proposed strategies that MDHHS has put in place. The Gratiot County Board of Directors has approved the resolution, and I have presented it to you this evening with hope that you will also oppose this, and I will send it on if approved to Director Hertel, who is the Director of BP HASA, the Behavioral Health and Aging Administration Service Agency. We love our acronyms in mental health world, in addition to her Chief Deputy Director. There have been several other CMHs across the state who have also adopted similar resolutions, and we have found it to be a very useful tactic in combating some of these hair-schemed ideas that our legislators and departments sometimes come up with. So I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions or clarification I can provide.
Well, I think you do this every day and you'd be probably well versed more than probably any of us in it. I guess I would just look for a motion to, this is our operation and that's what they think we ought to do. I think we just probably.
I would make a motion that we join with Gain in this resolution to oppose all 4 current proposals, structure and strategies.
Excuse me.
Moved and supported to support this motion. Any question, any opposition, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
All righty, Healthy Pine River. Is it Chuck that's gonna do that?
Wonderful. This is way too much fun. First and foremost, thanks a bunch for allowing Healthy Pine River and myself to come before the commissioners. We really are here for 2 specific reasons. We have sent you a template earlier outlining some questions regarding Healthy Pine River and our purposes. And in the folder that Chris just passed out, you'll see our HPR, Healthy Pine River Board members, and also my answers to the questions that we sent out to you. And then the slide presentation is really designed to support that and now try and move through it quickly. Certainly don't hesitate to stop me if there's something that that you have a question in regards or a comment. Lastly, so we're really trying to accomplish 2 things tonight. One is a part of our outreach program, which I'll talk a little bit later on, which we've not done very well. We've done a great job with establishing a strong membership base. Thanks to Gary Rayburn, our chair, who initiated this back in 2015. We've not done a great job of educating our public and our stakeholder groups, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. The second is to seek your support and a funding program that we're looking at. And I'll certainly talk about that in a little bit. So who are we? Why are we here? What are we doing? Where do we hope to go? And lastly, how can you help? Those are the important pieces to us. And very simple HPR mission statement is to restore the Healthy Pine or the Pine River to a healthy state. And that's not an easy task. This is our board. As shared, almost 386 members by 2022. Our operating budget is roughly around 15,000 annually. It ebbs and flows a little bit each year. And our dues are $5. And many of our members donate beyond their $5. And that's really how we get up to that level of 15,000. So just to share with you, the watershed, the Upper Pine River watershed is a document that we co-authored. This is at 400 plus pages back in 2019. It was approved by the Michigan, the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, Eagle. And it was also approved by the EPA in 2020. This document is our guide that we operate by. We co-authored it, and it's a terrific document, but it's not great for leisure reading. So you can see there very simply, though, the Upper Pine River watershed is huge. And of course, as you go down through and this, by the way, Chris has, and so does Matt, so this can all be sent to you. But basically, one of the things that I think people need to be aware of is that the Pine River flows through our county, and it hits Elma, St. Louis, Elm Hall, Riverdale, Sumner, and 17,000. Our population is 17,000 plus just between St. Louis and Elma, plus our small rural communities. And then you add some residents who live on the river or near the river. That river impacts a significant population in our county. What have we noticed in the last few years? And hopefully you have noticed the same, but there's been a significant degradation of the impoundment physically and aesthetically as well. We've spent two decades now testing and funding the testing through Elma College and what used to be Eagle, called DEQ. And the river is highly contaminated. I think you probably know that. And it's not gotten better. So that's a concern of ours. Recreation use has diminished. There are some people that are concerned about their property values diminishing, as well as some of us have lost property because of some of the erosion and flooding that's taking place along the river. I'll chat a little bit more about that a little later on. So what do we know about the river? It has excessive nutrients, phosphorus, nitrogen, ammonia. The E. coli levels are well above state standards, which is 300 parts per million for partial body counts. If I want to stick my leg in it and wade, it has to be below 300 in order for it to be safe for humans and partial body. If I'm going to swim in the river, it has to be below 700. And unfortunately, it's much, much higher than that. And so, as you know, the health department has already shared that concern and some signage around the county. It's also significant sedimentation, lots of vegetation that ends up being depleted oxygen, as well as a new thing that we're studying, which is antibacterial resistance, which is something that the college is very involved with, Dr. Tim Keaton. These pictures will help you see what I'm referring to. This is the impoundment behind the Elma Dam. The top picture was in March of 2022. Looks very pristine. When you look at the bottom picture, that's June of 22, and you can see it's greatly different. The issues in the impoundment are the shallowing of the impoundment, excessive vegetation, E. coli, algae mats, and all that is fed, of course, by the nutrients that are coming down the river in excess. This is a before and after. In 2002, you can see what the impoundment looked like, and you can see what it looks like in the same spot, 2014, a very significant change. This is kitty corner to our property. This is Dr. Mark Jacobs' property. That dock used to have a boat at it. As you know now, you're not going to see, it's actually turning into, when you see lily pad growth, you know that the depth of the water is very shallow, 2 feet or less. This is going to be land pretty soon. And this was all open water at one time. This is the river up on top. And then you'll see this little stream coming out to the left. That's Honeyway Creek. That is the largest tributary other than the Pine River in the county. And I'm going to show you a different look at it. This is property owners where the creek is coming by and flowing out towards the river. I would share with you that in the last 5 years, this used to be open water that I would take to our grandkids in. This was not there. This island was much smaller. And this is the confluence where the channel or the Honeyway Creek hits the river. That has 6 feet of sediment in it right now, and there's no flow. There's no flow whatsoever, which creates a problem in many ways. One for drain 96. You can see the confluence up on the top there where you can see the vegetation growing across 2 to 4 inches right now. There's just an example of riverbank erosion and soil runoff from our farming community, which is natural, but it creates a problem for the river. This is interesting. In 2014, that was 5 feet deep. This is just off the confluence of the creek. Those ducks and geese are now, or were, wading in it. That's now a sandbar. The E. coli counts, of course, E. coli is one of the measured water standards for the state of Michigan's Eagle Department. And this is their testing. 12 of the 13 tributaries in spots where they tested were above the quality standards. And E. coli comes from us, humans, cattle, swine, geese, etc. And it's all, it begins in our guts, if you will, and then moves into feces and then feces into the river eventually. This is Dr. Keaton's E. coli testing. This goes back towards time. This is the state level. And this is the Elm area, it's the state level. Harrison Road, of course, is out in the country. Riverview is just a mile outside of town. Loose Road, it's going south along the golf course, and of course, the boat launch in the city. And then State Street. So all of those you can see, only State Street was the only one that actually was above testing. That's not good news for us. This is the result of that. Mid-Michigan District Health Department posted signs which says the river may contain harmful bacteria, and you can read that yourself. But what it's basically saying is that you put yourself at risk if you choose to enter the water, wade, swim, etc. I'm going to skip through this. The antibacterial resistance is mostly from feedlots because many of our farmers now, in order to keep their herds safe, are giving their herds in so that they don't get sick, are giving them antibiotics. And of course, that is now entering the manure and then into the rivers with soil runoff. And what happens is that that gets into sediment. It's very much alive. And we're finding that some of our, some of the medications that you and I use to fight disease are less productive in hitting that. So that's a real concern, and more of a future concern. I'll skip by this because I'll hit this a little there. What is Pine River doing right now? What are we as an organization doing? We fund all the Alma College water testing. This year we've submitted an $8,000. We'll fund $8,000 for the testing equipment, the actual testing process, and the interns that do that. And we'll test both St. Louis and Elma impoundments, all the feeder streams, and then various spots in the river to get a clear reading on how are things going with the health of the river. We also provide a septic liaison that we hire that works in the communities of Riverdale, Sumner, Elm Hall, Elwell, et cetera. Well, not Elwell so much because it's not near the river, but she provides septic support for people who need to bring their septics up to standard. Biggest pollutants in the river right now, quality septics and livestock. Probably livestock quite a bit more significant because we have many more livestock, but it's important to realize that that's the process that we're trying to provide for folks. We also are working with the drain commissioner to help open up the Honeyway Creek. Drain 96 That's where drain 96, the county drain, hits the river, is at the end of Honeyway Creek. It's plugged. That creates backwater and flooding going all the way back up. So the drain 96 is not functional right now in designed the way it's supposed to function. We also have written many grants. We have 4 grants right now pending. 2 with Eagle, 1 with the Community Foundation, and 1 with the Michigan Not-for-Profit organization. And we're working, we're re-engaging the farm community. We did that in 2018 and up to 2020. Then MSU got a large grant and chose to ask us to be a part of their grant. And then COVID hit and the grant didn't go anywhere. And that was unfortunate. And we are also trying to advocate for our environment, et cetera. My comment earlier was, I think we've done a great job with our membership. We meet monthly. We have quarterly membership newsletters. We have excellent speakers come in to educate us about the plight of the river and its tributaries. What we've not done is we've not gotten to our public, our students, our stakeholder groups, our governments, our townships, et cetera, to help them understand the dilemma. So that's why we appreciate the opportunity to come here. One of the things we learned, Elma College just did a social survey for us this past spring. They interviewed residents on the impoundments, citizens in the community, business leaders, business persons, owners. What they learned is that most of the people they interviewed really didn't know what the concerns were. They knew there was a concern, but they couldn't articulate it. So what is wrong with the river? Well, if we don't know what's wrong, it's very difficult to come up with what we need to do to move forward. Let me get to what we're asking for. We have realized that in 2015, now in 2023, we've been totally voluntary. Most of our board members are highly engaged, not all of them, but we're trying to do the kinds of things to improve the river on all volunteer time. Most of us, I'm an educator, and most of the others on our committee are professionals, but they don't have the expertise in river environment, et cetera, that we really need, and they don't have the time. And so what we're asking you to consider is to help fund a part-time coordinator for the Healthy Pine River. We are going to ask this of all the government entities, some of our business leaders, and some of our business organizations. It's going to be a very quiet campaign, but a significant part of our population in the county is impacted by the river. And so we would love to see a concerted effort headed by Healthy Pine River to move forward. We've worked a long time in trying to improve it. It's taken a long time to get the way it is. It's going to take us a long time to improve it as well. So that's what that's what we're about. And I had a couple. I'll just go back here. What are we asking with the county commissioners? Your support for our efforts in design, trying to restore the pine. We'd like to enter into a contracted agreement, similar to the agreement we had with you in 2016, which was for $2,000 to help fund a bathymetry study of the Elma Dam impoundment. That we had 5 different stakeholder groups that contributed to that: the foundation, Healthy Pine River, county commissioners, City of St. Louis, cities of Elma. So, and that was very helpful for us. And we provide annual feedback to you, give you an idea of what we're doing. And of course, we'd also provide accountability for the budget that monies that we would spend. So that's really what we're asking. My last question's not on there, but let me just say this. If we don't work on the river, who's going to? And if we're not going to do it now, when are we going to get to it? I have 3 grandchildren in the community, ages 14, 12, and 10. And we used to be regular kayakers and canoers. Not anymore. Not anymore. And so we have people who are recreationists. We have fishermen, canoeists, kayakers, boaters. It's a mess. Couple of comments. and then I will finish and seek any questions. Dr. Murray Brullo from Elma College has said that in a matter of a few short years, the impoundments behind St. Louis and behind Elma will be swamps. Their sediment level is gaining so much from the vegetation and the sediments flowing down the river. Jim Wheeler said there will be no development of the brownfield property adjacent to the river on either sides of where our park is, because simply the aesthetics and the of the impoundment are deplorable. So, and that's tragic to have property a block from our main street in Elma. And of course, you know, the vestibular situation in St. Louis as well. And then the third thing was Phil Hansen from DDA, St. Louis. He very simply sent me 4 pictures. Their impoundment, if you, and I know you get by St. Louis, their impoundment looks worse than Elma's right now. So this is serious stuff. If you believe that the river's a wonderful natural resource, what are we doing with it? Questions that you might have?
I would like to say, I'm from St. Louis and I've never seen the rivers look so bad.
Earlier each year as well. Not only is,
Of course, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
I remember all the kids used to go down there and go fishing just down the street from me. And they would kayak, they would be in their boats and stuff like that. And you don't see any of that. That's sad.
and the folks that run the fish derby in St. Louis are very concerned as well, because it comes at a time of the year where they actually can't get their lines out into the water because of so much vegetation. So
What's going on? I haven't kept up what's going on in St. Louis by the bridge on 46. They're up there. Are they still dig out stuff?
there's, yes, the part of the cleanup super fun is they're excavating thousands of yards of dirt from 3 different locations where Vesticle was. Yeah, and they're going to be doing that at one of the dump sites as well.
But that isn't the reason why it's so bad right now. It's not because of the people farms where they're.
Our livestock farms are a significant part of that because of the manure that eventually ends up in the river. Most of our fields in Gratiot County are tiled. So when manure is a wonderful product for fertilizing, there's no question about that. The dilemma is this: in the old days when we put hard manure on the land, it would leach 100 to 200 feet down to an aquifer, and it would be pure by that. Today, it's leaching 2 feet, maybe 3 feet, hitting a drain tile, running from the drain tile into a drain ditch. I don't blame the farmers for that. They're doing what makes sense to them as far as growing crops and being fiscally sound. So are there some things that we can do to help them? And by the way, we have written grants and have grants pending now that allow farmers, help fund farmers, what we call best management practices. And so this is a we thing. This isn't Healthy Pine River opposed to the farmers or opposed to the faulty septic systems. This is a we thing. We all have children and grandchildren. It's about future generations and what are we going to leave them? So, other questions?
What I didn't hear is, how do you clean it up? How do you clean it up tomorrow? You have all the money in the world. I remember we funded a study and we have another study and another study. How do you clean it up? I mean, we can have these kids from out and want to do it. Is it a dredging thing to clean it up? How do you go out there and clean it up?
Well, in the confluence, Sam, where the creek hits the river, that's exactly the proposal that we're working with Eagle. In fact, they were out there today taking what we call soil samples, coring about 8 feet deep to look at characterizing the soils. Are there heavy metals in there? Are there PBB, other stuff? Because we want to dredge that area and we have to follow the Eagle parameters and procedures, which is very fair. Bigger wise.
Is that the Healthy Pine River or you want the state to do it?
I'm sorry.
When you say we want to dredge it, is that the Healthy Pine River or is that the state to do it?
No, that's us. But in order for us to do that, we have to work with our drain commissioner, which we are. And also nothing can happen until Eagle permits it. So you apply for the permit
I understand.
nowhere.
And where does the money come for dredging? Because that's not cheap.
In that particular situation, it would come through an assessment in the drain district.
Dredge out the drain.
Yeah, because you're dealing with part of the drain 96. When we did the study for the bathymetry study in the impoundment, to dredge Elma's impoundment would cost $23 million. That was a research done by Elma College.
Write your check today.
So, yeah, exactly.
Got your checkbook. Huh?
That's really a challenge. And so there's a variety of answers to that. Some you might like, some you might not.
Well, I guess my only thought is we keep studying it and we study it, it's getting worse. I mean, it hasn't gotten any better since probably the last time. We were here probably 5 or 6 years ago.
Correct.
And we study it again next year and it's got worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking, how do we fix it? I mean, we gotta get beyond the study part. We gotta get to fix it.
Well, first of all, we've got to do something to stop the sediment, the pollution. Sediment is a pollutant. And we've got to reduce that. So we've got to do more buffer strips when we farm. We've got to reduce runoff, things like that. The manure dams are excessive. Our farmers are living within the farming rules, if you will, the GAMs. The dilemma is that they're probably 150% more allowed to spread than they really need to spread, according to, and that's research done by farmers. Okay. But the real question is, how do you get the sediment? So buffer strips, good farming practices, what we call best management practices. The other is to look at the relationship between the dam, the impoundment, and the river, and how do we deal with that? Is there something there that can factor in? That the DNR several years ago asked communities to reduce or to remove non-functional dams. We're not advocating for that, but we are advocating what is the relationship between the dam, the impoundment, and the river. And we've visited a number of sites where rivers have been restored because dams have been removed. So fish migration has gotten better. Pollution has gotten less significant, if you will. But that's a conversation that the community has to have. But I think it's probably one that we have to be honest about. So.
As bad as these rivers are, especially there on Michigan Avenue, is there any fish in there?
Yes.
I think they,
Yeah.
I would need them, but there are fish.
Yeah, there are fish. The dilemma right now is this. There's so much algae mats and so much vegetation in the river that when it dies, it needs oxygen to decompose. That oxygen, when DEQ tested the river back in 2018, the oxygen levels were almost negligible, which does what? It reduces your fish population, kills them, or they migrate to places where there's more oxygen in the river. So that's a real problem for us.
yeah.
So, yep.
And when you mentioned Riverdale and stuff out there was 2-3 years ago, there was a big push for that whole operation. I just quieted right down and I don't think a lot of
You really have to take your hat off to the Riverdale Citizens Committee. Eagle targeted them for not having appropriate septic practices. The committee went out literally door to door and self-policed themselves and made the improvements needed to get off Eagle's watch list. A number of our members were trained and also transported those sediments to the labs that they need to go to for testing. So we've been very much a part of that. And by the way, that model is what we're using in Sumner and in Elm Hall as well.
So you're asking for funds from the county, from the city of Elma and the city of St. Louis.
We'll be I have talked to Eric and Greg Mapes. I've not met with them.
And we can help set the standard
Yep.
of that, I think, tonight, but I need to understand a little more. You say you want to, a part-time person.
Right.
All right. What is the ultimate goal? Hiring that part-time person? And is it going to be a yearly basis, ongoing thing? What is an outcome? The outcome you're looking for?
Oh, it's very fair. I would say the motto for me right now would be the Chippewa Conservancy. Was a not-for-profit like us. It was all voluntary.
Yeah.
through the series of grant writing and support locally, it's now has a full-time staff member and an assistant. They're not going to get rich in their jobs, but what they're able to do is to advocate and help initiate procedures for river cleanup and it is an annual funding thing too.
So you're not only looking for that, but I'm trying to understand the ultimate goal then. Is to
Ultimately,
be able to get these behind the dams and those areas there cleaned up.
correct.
And in the future, figure out ways to prevent it from happening again. So you do have outcomes you're trying to get to, and I understand that. It's been a problem for many years, and I do have, Gratiot County has very few natural resources
Correct.
in that regard.
They have beautiful parks.
And we have a Maple River and we have a Pine River.
Correct.
The Maple River is about as bad as the Pine River. And what
Actually,
the bad river.
yes.
So
Yeah.
we have the three. And of those three, I would dare say that the Pine River is, because of the situation, is probably the most, for lack of a better word, polluted of any of them. And it runs through our populated areas.
Yep.
So it would behoove us to try to do something going forward that would alleviate that. But as a steward of the taxpayers' dollars, I like to know that there's a plan and there's an outcome and an eventual outcome to the plan. So that we're not chasing our tail. I mean, we've been doing this for how many years? I've been on this board for 7, 8 years, and we've been doing it for all along I've been on the board. Now, I'm not saying you're not doing bad work. You are, but but Sam says, what's going to really happen in the end and how much is that going to take, but it's $3,000 from this county to help those people do that in the scheme of things is a very small amount. Especially when you're just saying it's going to cost you $28 million.
23
to
dredge. Yeah.
to dredge it. So, if at least we can keep the dream alive, if you will, by going forward, then I would think that would be a good worthwhile move by the.
If I can segue on that too, the 4 grants that we have outstanding right now, 2 of they go for $188,000, a second one for $34,000, one with a foundation for $7,500 and one for a not-for-profit organization for 10. A chunk of all those monies are designed to help fund that. A reason I can't give you a promise as to we're going to have a full-time person in a year, it depends on how the grants come through and how we are able to fundraise.
I mean, when you say to have a full-time person, I mean, if that's really the goal, hopefully this person that would be hired can help produce to clean this thing up. I mean, you don't want to end up being just a general fundraising operation. And I'm kind of on your side. Let's get it cleaned up somehow. Let's do something to see some results. I mean, if you started today and you get these couple $100,000 in grants, if you come back in a year from today and said, got these grants and we were at level 6 and now we're at level 5, it's getting a little better. We're heading in the right direction versus coming back saying, we did another study and we got a guy that's really doing the job, doing the study, and a lot of us volunteers have kind of got a break. And we're at 6 or 7,
Truth of the matter is,
trying to get you going in the right direction.
truth of the matter is that your frustration is nothing compared to our frustration.
Oh, sure. And I'm especially if you live,
But let me say one more thing about that. Our frustration is because we just don't have the expertise or the time. We're largely retired doing, community service. This time next year, I would love to say to you that the Eagle has allowed the permitting process for the dredging of Honeyway Creek. I'd love to say to you that, and I believe this can happen, that we will have a community conversation about the impact of the dam, the impoundment, and the brownfield property, and what is the most likely and most efficient way of moving forward with that. And part of that community conversation has to be how do people feel about the impoundment? Is there a way that we can take the dam out and revitalize that area? And we've seen it done in at least 4 places in Michigan that are within an hour's drive of here. Now, I'm not an expert in that area, but I have talked to experts and it can be done. And it can open up migration, increase recreation and decrease pollution. Those are the keys, but nothing happens without having the conversation with our residents and our citizens. And that's what we're trying to do. So,
like I say, I'm not an expert either, but I would think you want to get some legislators involved here. You know, I just think there's got to be some people to help push Eagle along. Yeah, because you can go there and you can take a contingency of people there and they're going to say, "How we hear you?" You're out the door. They're moving to the next guy. You know,
boy, do I understand that process.
I've been through it a lot with a lot of different.
Eagle has been good to work with, but they are like any bureaucracy, they're slow. You know, they promise when they rule on the permit that within 5 years, something will be done. That's a true story.
You might get the permit, but it might not be cleaned up.
I don't know if you've noticed the color of our hair. Sue's younger than most of us, but anyway, yeah, it is.
Well, how many times have they cleaned up the Velco site? This is what, the 3rd or 4th time? And they still haven't got it right.
It's not about getting it right.
At several $1 million every time they've done it.
Hundreds of, I mean,
Yeah.
millions of dollars.
So,
Yeah.
You've got a huge challenge, but I commend you for trying to take on the challenge. Somebody has to do it. And so.
We'd like you to be a part of that, somebody. And you'll find us very accountable. That's why we write grants when we are selected. We have to be accountable for those dollars. So $3,000 would be a great start for us.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we do $3,000 to Healthy Pine River.
Yeah, support.
Have a motion and supported to make a $3,000 contribution to the Healthy Pine River.
It'd be a contract.
Yeah.
You can't do a contribution. You have to be a contract.
And we would provide that contract and then have you review it, have Chris review it.
2 questions. The contract would just be for this fiscal year or this year, right?
This fiscal year, correct.
You guys have like a year calendar type of, I mean, ours runs till October.
Ours actually is our audit, and we just were audited by Yo and Yo, actually runs, Lenny, from calendar year, January to January. Yeah,
You would want the money in our budget this year before October.
it's possible. Yes,
So we would do a contract for 1 year in this budget.
correct.
$3,000, everybody understand that?
Yes,
Any questions about it? All in favor? You want a roll call on this?
I think you have to, it's fine.
We will call. I was just asking Chris if he can find the money.
I'm sorry.
I was asking Chris if he can find the money.
Believe me, I've had people say I should have been here a year ago, and I understand that, but this is, yeah.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes.
Commissioner Owens,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
But
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I apologize for taking so much of your time.
look, we need to be informed and I appreciate how you did it. So.
Thank you.
But I hope you can come back next year and say, you know, we were at a 6 or a 10 and now we're at a 9 or we're at a
That's
9.5. You know, we're getting
Improvements have been made over the last.
exactly.
I don't know what that direction is, but we're headed there.
That's the accountability and the update, Sam, that we need to provide you. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We're to the airport.
Okay. Change gears here.
We met 2 weeks ago, maybe 10 days ago or something. Met in the morning and how this was kind of, we were working around meetings. We had an attorney there, the attorney who drew this all up. And basically the people who are in the airport authority had voted not to be on it anymore. And Alma and I think maybe Pine River were the last ones just because of their meeting times. It wasn't like they selected to be the last one. So we're really the only ones that didn't vote not to be on this. So we're kind of here and everybody else has given up on the airports. Okay. So I think we're looking at how we take this on.
Yep, there are 5 steps that have been prepared for, 1 for Gratiot County, 2 for the airport authority, and 2 between the airport authority and the city of Elm. I'm going to walk you through each one of these. We're only looking to take action on one item tonight, which is a resolution that Gratiot County accepts that all, I believe, 4 or 5 of the other airport authority entities withdrew. So we would have to accept that as a Gratiot County being the sole member of that authority. The next 2 steps would need to be done by the airport authority, and we cannot call an airport authority meeting without having 18 hours advance notice. So Sam and I had spoke before this meeting that maybe we could hold an airport authority meeting after the next board meeting. We would go into session for that, which we would address items number 2 and 3 here, which would be accepting the articles of organization. What that would essentially do is that would make the board members of the Gratiot County Board the board members for the airport authority. So we would go from 1 representative, which currently is Sam, to 5 representatives. And it would also create an advisory board, which this board would appoint members of throughout the community to help advise the authority board on day-to-day, annual, long-term plans for the airport. The second item that would need to be done in 2 weeks would be to accept the bylaws for the authority, and that would be the rules. We'll go through these in detail because it is important that we look at this together. Hopefully, when we leave here after this meeting, you'll have the general understanding of each of these documents. You will have some suggestions on what we would like to see updated or changed before we come back together in 2 weeks to accept them. Documents number 4 and 5, there is an intergovernmental agreement that was drawn up by the lawyer that would be between the authority and the city of Elma. The city of Elma has not yet looked at these documents in a public forum, and they plan to do that next week at their meeting. But we're going to take a look at it tonight. And the biggest item that is in this, and we'll look at this in detail, is that the city of Elma is going to assist the authority, assist the county in continuing providing services to the grounds, continue providing financial services, paying the bills for the airport and such. And when we get to that point, there is a blurb in there that says for an agreed amount of time that is not filled in, and we'll talk about what Eric and I thought would be a good amount of time for the city to help train the county in running the business side of the airport. The 5th document that we are going to look at is the lease and asset transfer. So we will go through that document, which will lease the land and assets that is currently owned by 3 different entities: the county, the not the former authority, the Airport Commission, which consists of Gratiot County and the city of Elma. And then there are assets and land that are owned by the city of Elma. That lease would allow the airport authority to have authority to use those assets as needed to operate an airport. As long as Gratiot County is managing the airport at the time. So the very first document, Resolution 23-307, What this does is it creates a single county-based funding mechanism by reorganizing the airport authority membership under the control of Gratiot County. Would you like me to read this as we go through so that we read the entire thing before we pass it?
We have,
Just highlight it.
everybody has this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so really, like he said, basically all we're gonna do is accept this resolution that we will, the commissioners will be the authority, and then we'll have a meeting, an authority meeting 2 weeks from now. That's really what we're doing here. Is that the way you see it too, Eric? And so I don't know. We can read through it, or you can take a short minute to look at it. If there's any questions on it.
You're just accepting that everybody else has withdrawn and that you're the sole member.
Then everybody,
I don't have any issues with it.
I was just sure of this.
I move that we adopt it.
I'll second it.
so it's been moved and supported to adopt this resolution 23-307, which Gratiot County will accept the airport. Any questions about anything on it? All in favor?
Roll call.
Oh, roll call vote?
Commissioner Gay,
Yes.
Commissioner Owens,
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Bunting,
Yes,
Commissioner Smith.
Yes. So what we've done is we've accepted the consent to become the sole member of the authority. That's all we've done tonight here on this. And these other 3 or 4 pieces, we'll look at them the next couple of weeks before we meet again, and then we'll go through those. But if Chris wants to buzz through them tonight, or
If I could just highlight a few things, specifically, some things that Eric and I noted when we sat down and met last week, that we would like to change. In the second document, there is a, articles of organization. Articles of organization, number 5, the Airport Advisory Board. If you do have it on paper, it's the very bottom of the first page of what is titled Second Amendment to Agreement establishing Gratiot County Community Airport Authority Articles of Organization. One of the items in our resolutions that we passed at both Gratiot County and at the city of Elma, very specifically laid out that on the airport advisory board, that the city of Elma would be able to appoint somebody that represents the city of Elma. And this articles of organization did not spell that out. We felt that it would be fair to go ahead and add that specific verbiage into number 5.
Kind of discussed, in discussion, that's what we're thinking anyway.
Right.
Go against anything we'd already.
Right, it just wasn't drawn up in there by the lawyer, so we'd like to add that into there. And then number 8,
Yeah,
just a little bit further down,
that's my question.
it talks about the budget should be presented to the authority no later than April 1st. We'd like to change that to September. We're going from one fiscal year to another for governing boards.
September.
Yes, September 1st would be good.
Would be the introduction and we'd accept it with the county budget,
Yeah.
which makes sense.
Outside of that, we did not see anything else in the articles of organization when we had our discussion. And I would like to say that I was very impressed with the documents that were put together. I thought they were easy to read and it was refreshing to see something turn out the way that we had hoped that it would. I was surprised how quick. That too, probably $400 an hour. I was surprised how quick.
Find it right now, but I had a question. Supposed to have a chairman of the Airport Commission, like,
Okay.
what document?
You're talking about the third document and that's titled the bylaws.
I couldn't find it.
Yep.
All right,
3.1 would,
talk about that when we get there.
okay, that's right where I was going because the next suggestion that we had was a part of the bylaws document. So if you'd like to go ahead and lead in with your question or suggestion.
Yeah, well, it had, the chairman would serve 1 year. All right, and our policies and procedures as far as our commissions go, you know, I would propose that the chairman of the airport authority is also the chairman of the Board of Commissioners to keep it consistent. And having 1 year is a little bit short for us. You know,
Don't this go to 4 years next time?
Yeah.
we go to
Just a
3
few
years.
years.
Next, after this next
Yeah,
election,
yeah.
the next election will be for 4 years.
Yes. So that just kind of, it doesn't flow well with our policies and procedures. As far as the commission goes. I was just thinking maybe it'd be easier if we kept everything on the same page, if you will.
Okay, so every year with the Gratiot County Board of Commissioners, it's every term that someone is appointed, the chairman, every term. Okay. So you'd want to see that reflected.
I would like to see that airport authority chairman reflect the chairman of the board.
Okay,
We may have to change. our-
And our policies are going to probably change somewhat because our next time is going to be 4-year terms. And I don't know, none of us know what that's going to look like yet.
Angie was just saying that our bylaws say every 2 years we have a new chairman or we have a vote for a chair.
Yeah, every 2 years, but that's,
Well, 4 years, our bylaws say 2.
yeah, but well, our bylaws are going to have to change anyway because the elections just changed to 4 years. So it's, the whole thing is going to have to change. I just don't want to,
Well, I think we just need to model this along as whatever
yeah,
we select as a.
that would be my suggestion. The reason why I said that, because I'm not going to be here the next meeting. I'm going to be in the UP. I just want to get all my questions. So that's what I had.
So you're saying the chair of the board,
Yeah, the board chairman of the Board of Commissioners would,
The chair of the board.
yeah,
the chair,
that just makes it easier.
under our bylaws 3.3, there is a secretary paragraph. And Angie has suggested to me that we
take her.
just name the clerk in this
Yeah,
paragraph.
that makes perfect sense to me.
I thought she was.
We want to model it as much as we can after the Board of Commissioners, so it's fluid. So we don't have to think about who's this and who's that. We kind of all know.
Now, outside of that, within the bylaws, it looked like it followed,
I read through it really carefully and I think those are those things that I was concerned about. Yeah.
the next document that we have would be the intergovernmental agreement between the authority and the city of Alma. And the changes that we would suggest here tonight, I think Eric will probably bring those with him to his meeting next week at Alma. I thought the agreement was very straightforward and basic. The only decision that needs to be made to me would be the length of the terms, how long they provide these for us. And when we met, what we were comfortable with was having the agreement be for 6 months, which would bring us essentially to the end of the calendar year. And there is a phrase in here that says unless sooner terminated by agreement of the part of both parties. And what we would like to shoot for is for the county to take over those operations within 3 months at the end of the
For our fiscal year, start of our fiscal.
so there would be a 3-month buffer in there should something go sideways.
You know, that's, in my opinion, that's the administrator. You deal with the finances, so you'll be better equipped than any of us to decide when you're gonna pull that trigger, so.
And it's,
What that pretty much is things that city of Elma are doing out there, like they just changed the yard light here a few months ago and anything that needs to be done in like the little terminal thing, and there's a maintenance or whatever needs, the toilet plugs up, they take care of it. I mean, that's the things that they're doing, day-to-day operations, if there's something wrong out there. They're not mowing the lawn, they're not doing anything like that, plowing the snow, they're just doing little maintenance things on the property that's there.
Also doing the finances, right?
And then the finances, we would roll that over, we would put that over to us, yeah. So those are some of the things that the city's doing right now. We would just need to try to gear up how we would do that.
Just make sure that everybody there is moved from one system to another. It should be, should work out really well. Outside of that, we did not see anything else in the IGA that was,
I didn't. Like I said, the only questions I had were those two.
in the last document. The fifth document in the packet would be the lease between the authority and the city, county, and the
City.
This is one of the documents that I think that all of us, well, I know Sam has read over this a lot of times. I've read over the lease a lot of times, expecting to see things that I thought that either party would want to change. And I did not see that. I did not see anything in this lease that I thought one party would benefit if something changed. I'm welcome to hear any feedback.
No, I thought it was a good document. It's solid. It's leaves the door open for discussion, which is a good thing. And yeah, I don't see any downside to it.
Again, we'll have a couple more weeks to look at it, but if we have any suggestions to any of these documents, please get them to me as soon as you may have any concerns, and I can pass them along.
Yeah. We can make these changes that we talked about tonight with just our timing and stuff, so you would present it to your folks next week, is it?
Next.
Tuesday, yeah. So we can make those changes in here.
Mhm.
And everybody's kind of happy with 6 months. Have them involved and try to get it done in 3.
I think that's appropriate amount.
Not a wind us up at our end of our year.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not fair to, and everybody understands that. You just can't take something that's going one way one day and turn it around, go the other way. It takes time.
All right, any other questions about this? Eric, you got any questions or any thoughts?
I appreciate it.
All right, so do you look those over the next couple of weeks? If you have anything, get with Chris and we'll get it worked out here in a couple of weeks. We went, all of us, I think today went on jail tour. George went the other day, but I don't know.
I went through a couple weeks ago.
If there was any discussion about that, you want to talk about it?
Well, they definitely need to upgrade it or build a new one. It's very old.
Yeah, if I could just give a real quick introduction for for years and years, commissioners, administrators, sheriffs, jail administrators have talked about wanting to investigate building a new jail here at Gratiot County. And a couple months ago, Sam was sitting in my office and he asked me, well, why do we need a new jail? You know, that was not a question that I was prepared
It's a fair.
to answer. I could not list off five reasons that we needed a new jail. So in order to even have this conversation, I wanted the sheriff and the jail administrator to show the commissioners why they thought that they needed a new jail. So that's why we had tours today. We had 2 separate tours, each one containing 2 commissioners, so that we would not be in violation of the Open Meetings Act. And then we put a placeholder on the agenda to discuss what you saw today. Maybe you can answer Sam's question. What I am hoping to get out of this is if you want to formally continue to move towards looking to see what I'd like to get a new jail, or if that's something that we're going to table for.
Let's move forward.
I think so too. I think we need to do a committee.
Need to make a decision on.
Oh, you already got my opinion. I said that last time.
Complete building.
I said for 6 years.
Improving the one.
Well, I don't think it would be financially plausible to take that jail that was built in the sixties or seventies and turn it into something that would be considered improvement. Just
So there's a lot of, what location would have it?
Well, we got to discuss that.
well, yeah, and that's not necessarily the purpose of this discussion. That would be
But we need
moving forward.
All sorts of different questions.
I think it's something we could look at. I think it's something we can look at. I mean, I don't think we should put any funds involved in it right now to take a look at it. I think if anybody has I think you took an opportunity to go see a new jail somewhere. Didn't you mention that?
Yeah, Wexford County.
Wexford County. You know, I probably would like to go look at one someplace to see really what the differences are.
You're down in St. John's all the time and good.
Oh, that they're talking about building new one there. That's 25, 30 years old.
No, that's true too.
I mean, I remember they were.
When Stanton built, there's not that long ago, didn't it?
I don't know. Where's Saginaw School? Yeah. So I think if we could get an opportunity to maybe take a look at it, or we could go look at, maybe we could set something up, you know, down the road here to go take a look at one in the fall or something. This is nothing's gonna happen soon. I just look at the nuts and bolts of it. Interest rates are high. Construction's high, you know, we're not gonna start digging holes for 3-4 years and hopefully they'll come down. You know, we have some different administration or something.
Building today.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of things to look at, but
I can't even think about it until 2026. We've got to pay the debt off.
That would be the long-term goal.
Yeah.
Once our bonds are paid off.
I think by the time you get a committee together, they sit down and they really think about they'd have to have choices. Like they maybe to remodel it or where would they build it? Maybe there's two different issues there. Exactly what would be the most.
I said to Mike, I guess I'll tell you, I said to Mike today, if George wrote the check today, where would you build? He said his goal, his thought, that's just Mike's. He would build on the side of this building, come down that driveway, tear that down and build a parking lot there. That would be his preference. We have property out north of town. You know, then you gotta have, he said.
South of town you're talking.
People.
South of town.
Or south of town, excuse me. Yeah, we have property south of town. Maybe build a facility out there. That's why Clinton County is set up. They arraign people by video court, but apparently you can say, I want to go to the courtroom and be arraigned, and then they got to send a car to pick you up, bring you or something. I'm not sure how that all works, but that's what he had said there. So there's some different opportunities to do something, you know, but we would be a long ways from anything like that, you know.
I'd like to know how many people are we looking at that we'd want to house, or like this one over here, I think goes up to 80 to 90 inmates at one time. How many more is that going to be the same or more or less or whatever?
Well, and the populations of our jails are becoming different. A lot more
Exactly.
drugs, a lot more mental problems. We're looking at all sorts of different, our courts are set up now so that the felony charges are lessened in a lot of cases. And so they don't spend as much time in there. So there's a lot of different factors that are going to go into what we're looking at.
That's why I think it's going to take a while just to get a committee together and have them start on something. It might take a year just to kind of get into this and have different choices and be looking at the needs and.
For me personally, I guess I would think it'd be a good idea if we could somehow arrange to go take a peek at a jail someplace.
I think that'd be great.
I,
We could take a road trip.
look, knock that wood, I've not seen a lot of insides of myself. But,
Haven't gone out of your way to find one.
You can look at that and you can say, okay, well, there's a big $60 million one here, there's something hybrid that, we could use, there's talk about you can get federal prisoners and pay for them. That's how Clinton County paid for their jail 25 years ago. There was a lot of places that didn't have jails. And for some of you who've been around here a long time, Dr. Messenger's family wanted to build a jail on 57 and 27 and make it a privatized jail. He couldn't get authorization from the state. He'd had like a Holiday Inn for prisoners throughout the state.
Okay, good idea.
It was a heck of an idea, and he was gonna make money on it. But so I think if we took a look at, if we could somehow get a chance to look at a couple jails to say, maybe we need something in the middle, or maybe we need something, at least then you could move forward and say, well, let's take a harder look at it, maybe appoint a committee or something.
Yeah. Well, let's see, where do we always want to go? We go to Mackinac Island and then maybe to,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, yeah. But no, I mean, maybe like Mount Pleasant's building a new one. Maybe we.
Isabella County is.
Isabel County, yeah.
Good.
And maybe take a look there and maybe Shiawassee County or Saginaw.
Yep, they have a lot of open houses.
Do they?
Do a road trip, get a van and,
Well, we all can't go together.
oh, we could, we'll take the clerk with us.
You gotta post it as a meeting or something.
I'll keep it.
So I think that might be a thing to look at, if we can
Want
want that.
to take out one of Elma transportation buses.
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate, something that has been said several times though, and this is not something that we're going to rush into. This will be a, 2, 3, 4.
It's just have the idea right now. You're looking at for the idea of possibly doing something.
I just don't want the front page of the paper to say Gratiot County looking to build a new.
And commissioners decided to build a jail. We did not decide to build a jail.
Something else too, I took a tour through the courts over here on this side. And they also showed me where they need more room and are really cramped into small spaces and didn't have room to file papers and stuff like that. So that's something else that we need to combine with that. If we're going to redo things here in the county level.
Yeah.
So we might have somebody.
It's always a possibility.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? Looks like we need some appointments. We have some openings.
Yes.
On some boards.
Yes, so Department of Health and Human Services has a partial term because Carol Lehman passed away. She was on their board. And so we do have a position that's open. I advertised in the paper and we didn't have any applicants. I did hunt down Marcella Thompson, who is a relation, but she has been a foster parent for Gratiot County back in the day before she adopted some kids out of foster care. So she kind of knows the system a little bit because she's worked with them. So she's willing to do some community service in that area if you so appoint her.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported to place Marcella Thompson.
Yeah.
Marcella Thompson into that position to finish that term up on the Health and Human Service Board. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And our next one is Board of Canvas. So Ferris Azam is one of my Republican Board of Canvas. And he is running as a write-in for the St. Louis Council. And so he will not be able to be on the Board of Canvas board because he's on the ballot, because he will be on the ballot. So he had to resign from Board of Canvas. So I reached out to Chuck Murphy, who is the chair for the Republican Party. They are supposed to submit applicants for you to pick for Board of Canvas. And he would like to run on that board. So he had sent me an email stating he wishes to be on the Board of Canvas.
So moved.
Second.
Move to place Chuck Murphy's.
They go through and they make sure that all the precincts are verified after the elections, that they balance. And if there's a problem, to make sure that the precincts, that you have the same number of voters with how many ballots ran through the tabulator. And then they go through and they look at the tabulator tapes to make sure that those equal how many voters show up. And then they consolidate all of the precincts together so that we have a county total. And then those county totals are transferred onto the state.
And Chuck will have a list of people.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, yep. They go through the ballots.
So it's been moved and supported to appoint Chuck Murphy to finish the partial 3-year term to the County Board of Canvassers for the Republican Party.
So move.
Already did it.
We already did it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Then we have one for Commission on Aging.
Yes, because Timothy Weaver, he was a member at large on Commission on Aging and he is moving out of the county. So we should have one applicant, Don Gates.
Ooh, I didn't hear that.
Don Gates.
Don Gates, the member of Ithaca, been a citizen for years, was a school teacher, was on the senior board of Ithaca. He'd make a great addition to the Commission on Aging, and I nominate him.
Support.
Moved and supported to put Mr. Don Gates on the Commission on Aging member at large to finish out that term. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any other unfinished business? There's no public comment or board, any more board comments or anything? Any public comment? Any public comment, Matt?
Nope.
Motion. Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
I'm gonna
Thank you.